So in the land full of wonder 9mm, there are a few 9mm that are considered king. We are going to do a quick dive into these, and this is a question I pose to you. Out of these four listed right here on this screen right now, which one do you think is king? Like I said, we're going to nosedive into this and give us some details, and you let me know which one reigns supreme. Hey heathens, it's Gun Didi. So this week we're going to do something a little different than our normal. This week we are going to compare 4 different pistols, but I'm only going to give you facts, and I want to hear your opinions in the comments, which one you think is better. These are all that mid-size slash kind of full-size range of pistols, and these are 4 of the most iconic 9mm on the market. So I'm going to give you some facts on each of them, and I want to see what your opinion is on which one is the best 9mm out of this group. We're not going to start in any particular order. I'm just going to start over here with the Beretta and work our way over to the Glock. It's just the way I lined it up. There's no specific bias to any single one of these. But we're going to measure them on 4 different metrics. First metric is going to be reliability. That's the most important thing on all of these guns, is how reliable they are. Granted, each of these guns are extremely reliable, but we're going to go into that. While we're getting into that, we're going to go with service life, things like that, inside the reliability category. Next is going to be cost, because the next important thing to a lot of people is the cost of the firearm. If it's an extreme price and it's an extremely reliable gun, a lot of people still won't buy it. So that's going to be a factor. Next is going to be availability, because even if it's the cheapest gun on the block here and you can't find it, people end up going the other way, right? And the last thing, and probably the least important, but it is actually very important for purchasing a firearm and what you think is the best, is the looks. I mean, it is very superficial, but as human beings, we judge a lot of things on how it looks and how it looks to us. So that's going to be a factor as well. So judging off of those 4 metrics, let me know in the comment section which one of these you think is best. But we're going to get into close detail. We're going to start with the Beretta and work our way over. All right, so right here we're starting with the Beretta 92. This is a very iconic pistol, first introduced in 1976 to the Italian markets. We didn't adopt it in the United States as a military weapon as the M9 until 1985. So this guy was our service weapon until just recently when Sig took it over. I want to say it was 2019 or 2018. I'll have to check that and I'll annotate it right here on the screen. But the Beretta M9 was our service weapon from 1985 all the way till then. So this had a very long service life. This is a fuller size pistol. It holds a typical of 15 rounds. This one holds 17, but typically they were issued with a 15 round magazine. It's got a 4.7-inch barrel. It's a full metal framed gun, hammer fired. What's really cool about this guy, let's show you that it is unloaded. This is a single action and a double action firearm, which means you can fire it both ways, which is perfect for carrying, where you can cock that, or you can rack one in, you can decock it. Now it's perfectly safe to carry without the safety on, because that is a heavy, long trigger on there. So your first trigger pull is going to be heavy, but then it's going to rack that slide and make your next trigger pull very light and very easy to go. And if you need a good, accurate shot, you can always cock that back. These guys come with a standard 3-dot sight, but a lot of the newer variants come with all kinds of different light or optics. A lot of it, or sights, sorry. A lot of the new variants come with different sights, Picatinny rails, all kinds of cool things. And they have like the M9A3, M9A4, all kinds of really nice different variants of the Beretta. This gun has been cloned heavily since 1990s-ish, when the tourists started cloning them. Everyone has cloned the Beretta now, and there's totally different variants going from 9mm up to 40, all the way down to 380 and 22. So if you like this design, it's very accessible. Now, we're going to get into the factors of this guy. Reliability. Like I said, this was serviced from 1985 till just recently when the Sig M17 lineup just knocked it off of its pedestal. So it's got very huge reliability, and one of the reasons why it doesn't have the slide going across the top is Beretta knew that gave a large ejection port, so the rounds will constantly eject out of this guy, and you won't have situations where you have a stovepipe inside the ejection port. That is something that Beretta did to make this extremely reliable. Plus, there's a lot of large gaps, so sand, debris, stuff like that can be shaken out of it. Cost. Now, these guys are a little bit on the pricey side nowadays, especially if you go with some of the higher end variants. There are a lot of different variants. You can get these really inexpensive on the used side of the market. There are police trade-ins, things like that. You can get these really inexpensive. But if you want a brand new one, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. You're probably looking at about the $7-ish mark on the price tag. Unless you go with like the Inox or something, you're going to go way up there in the price range. Availability. The Beretta 92 is probably one of the most available firearms ever. I mean, even if you just go with a clone, chances are you walk into almost any gun shop in the country and there's at least some type of a Beretta 92 on the shelf, whether it be a clone or an actual Beretta 92. You're going to find it. If you can't find it, I'm sure they'll order it for you. And last but not least, we're going to go over looks. In my opinion, this is a good looking pistol. It's very iconic. John McClane had to use one in the Die Hard series, so it kind of has that nostalgic vibe for us that grew up in the 80s and 90s. This is a very iconic pistol for that. This is a great little looking pistol, and in my opinion, good looking, very reliable, and very cost effective if you go on the used side of the market. All right, next we got the Sig 226, P226. This is a very iconic pistol. It is one of the better lineups in Sig's lineup, in my opinion. I really like the Sig P226. It's a very dependable firearm. Now, this gun was introduced in 1981, but we adopted it in the U.S. Navy as the Mark 25 in 1989. So it's got a pretty good service life. It's still running in the U.S. Navy today, as far as I'm aware, and they're using it as the Mark 25. So from 1989 to today, it's got a very long service life. This is like I said, a fuller size pistol. It has got a 4.7-inch barrel as well, and it runs 15 round magazines. This specific one is the double action Kellerman design. A lot of people don't like it, but Sig knew that a lot of people also didn't like that fact that you went from single action to double action trigger, so there was multiple different types of triggers. So what they did is they got rid of the decocker, made this to where it's a double action only trigger. So let's go ahead and show that is clear. So it is a double action only trigger. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but very smooth. Now, the standard 226 is a double action, single action trigger. So, or single action, double action. So the hammer can be cocked back and fired in single action, or you can drop the decocker and run it in double action. These guys, they typically are a fuller size pistol. Like I said, if you have a good size grip, you get a good size hand, you get a good size grip on there. They have a standard 3-dot sights, but a lot of them nowadays do come with night sights, like this one does. They have a very good lineup of back straps for these guys, and magazine availability is pretty good. But let's go over the metric systems. Reliability, like I said, it's being used by the Navy, specifically the Navy SEALs, as the Mark 25, and it's been used since 1989. So service life, reliability, it's right up there. It's neck and neck with that Beretta M9. As cost, now this is the problem that the 226 is probably going to get faulted on. Nowadays, the Sig 226 is a very pricey gun. It used to be very reasonable. You used to be able to get these all day long for very reasonable prices. But recently, I don't know if it has something to do with the failures of the P320 or what, the Sig 226 has gone dramatically up in price range. Even on the used side of the market, they are pricey. This is probably the biggest negative to the Sig 226. Availability. Now, this is another negative on the Sig 226. Now, you can find used 226s quite often, but the brand new versions of the Sig 226 are far and few in between. Typically, you have to order them. Most gun shops don't have them in stock. Not most gun shops in the country. Now, there are variants. There are clones of the Sig 226, but even those are on the rarer side. I mean, you have like the Korean Daewoo is a clone of the Sig 226, but Daewoos are hard to come by, and now they're kind of on the pricey side because they're hard to come by. And then you have like their clones of their 22s, which is like the Sig Mosquito, which is made by Sig. And you have like the GSG Firefly, which is another Sig 226 designed, but more of a clone of the Sig Mosquito. Very interesting concepts, but availability kind of on the lower end of that spectrum. Now, looks. I personally really love the way this pistol looks. I think it's a very iconic pistol. You typically saw it in a lot of movies in the late 80s, early 90s. This was, a lot of times the bad guys were running these guys, but you saw like FBI agents, things like that running the Sig 226 in movies. So it's very iconic for that reason. I think it's a good looking pistol. They did a really good job with ergonomics. It just feels good. It looks good. And, you know, it actually is a really nice looking pistol. All right, now we're running to the granddaddy of 9mm pistols. This is the FN Hipower. This guy is specifically the Mark I, but these guys are a fuller mid-size gun with a 15-round magazine and a 4.7-inch barrel. This is a very nice pistol. This was designed in 1935. Well, actually, technically, this was designed in the 20s before John Browning died. And then after he died, one of the chief engineers took up the designs and finished the design so that way we can get the Hipower. Originally, it was designed for the French. French didn't adopt it. The Belgians did. And the rest is kind of history. In 1935, this started as the Belgian military, and pretty much almost every NATO country after that has used it at one point or another. You can even see wartime footage of where Germans during World War II were carrying the FN Hipower. I mean, it is a very iconic pistol. It is arguably one of the better designs out there, and it is there's a lot of controversy out there saying that this was the design that John Browning really wanted to do with the 1911, but with military and Colt contracts, he had to limit what he could do. But this is a good looking pistol, very iconic, and like I said, for reliability, this guy has got it pretty much beat compared to the rest of the guns on service life. It has been issued to military since 1935 and really hasn't stopped since. The U.S. military doesn't really use them anymore, but you will see guys who might still run an FN Hipower. Now, moving on to the next metric, this is the cost. FN Hipowers, even the new reproductions of them, are expensive. The clones, the Turkish clones aren't too bad, but even the Springfield clone and the new reproduction of the FN are pricey. If you want an actual FN Hipower, expect to pull out your pocketbook. You're going to be paying a pretty penny for these guys. Now, availability. Yet again, unless you want a clone, if you want a real FN Hipower, you're going to have to find it online and order it. You're not going to see it in most gun shops just sitting on the shelf. And if it is sitting on the shelf, you got lucky and you got there before anyone else did, because these guys get swooped up very quickly because it is a very desirable gun. Last but not least is the looks. I personally love the way the FN Hipower looks. It's really iconic with that design feature set that John Browning was running at that time. The negative side is some of the original ones were fixed sights. Now you got ones with target sights, so that is a plus. And if you go with the clones, there's tons of different aftermarket stuff for them. But it is just a good looking pistol, all steel frame, very heavy, single action gun. So you do have to have that hammer cocked in order to pull that trigger. But it is a very light, very crisp trigger. This is a very iconic pistol and definitely something that every collector should have. I really do like the looks of these guns. All right, last but not least is the Glock 19. Now, the Glock 19 is extremely iconic. Every single person that's been into guns knows what a Glock is. Even people who don't know what a Glock is or don't know guns know a Glock. This gun was originally introduced in 1988. That's when the Glock 19 was introduced. Many militaries, many police departments have adopted this pistol or its 40 cal variants over the years. It has served almost non-stop in almost every field since 1988. It's been a workhorse of a pistol. Now, these guns, like I said, are on that fuller size compact gun. These are a 15 round magazine, of course. We are empty, of course. Now, this is a striker fire pistol. This is the only striker fire pistol out of this group. It is a polymer frame striker fire pistol, so the only one out of this group. Let's check out that trigger. Very clean. It's more of a single action trigger because that striker does have to be cocked in order for that trigger to reset and be able to pull again. So very similar to the Hipower in the fact that it's only one action on that guy. Now, these run a 4-inch barrel. Yeah, these run a 4-inch barrel and have a single Picatinny slot, so your lights, lasers, accessories, things like that. But when they first were introduced, they were introduced without a Picatinny rail. Over the years, they got it. So, hey. Now, going off of reliability. When it comes to reliability, Glock has kind of set the standard across the entire market on what a reliable firearm should be. These guys have functioned pretty much flawlessly since 1988. That's why many police forces, many security firms, and some militaries run the Glock variants out there. The magazines are the best in the market for reliable feeding. That's probably the most important thing to the Glock. That and the looser tolerances, so that way when you get sand or debris in there, you can shake it out and it functions just flawlessly. Now, cost. This is probably where the Glock beats everyone else on the market. Well, everyone else on this list. The actual Glocks, brand new, they're a little bit on the higher price side. Not terrible, somewhere between $500 and $600 usually is where you could see them. On the used side of the market, typically you can get these guys less than $400 almost everywhere. There's tons of police trade-ins, things like that. So you can always get Glocks almost anywhere. That also goes right into availability. The availability of the Glock 19 is extremely high in every gun shop across the country. Unless the gun shop owner hates Glocks, there are Glocks on the shelves. You're not going to miss out a chance to get a Glock going into any gun shop. You typically won't even have to order them unless you want a special edition. Also, there are a billion variants of the Glock 19 nowadays. There are tons of clones. Ever since the Gen 3 patent expired, everybody makes a clone for the Glock 19. So if you're not a Glock guy, or you like the grip angle a little bit more vertical, or you like the different optics setup, or a different trigger guard, or whatever, I'm sure there's a variant out there who has everything that you want. There are some variants that are more expensive than the Glock 19, which I think is ridiculous. A clone should not be more than the original, but hey, everyone has their opinions. Last but not least is looks. This is probably where the Glock falters compared to the others. The Glock for me is attractive because I like Glock. But for a lot of people, they look at this and they say it is just a brick. I mean, there's a lot of square angles. There's not really any form design. Even the grip's very blocky. So a lot of people do not like the way the Glock looks. So overall, it probably loses in that category compared to the other guns I presented. I personally think the other guns are better looking, but I'm a fan of the Glock 19 as well. But that's a quick overview of each of these guns and what I think of them. All right, guys, so that's my quick overview of each of these firearms, what I think of them. I think each of these guns have phenomenal feature sets, phenomenal reliability, and they all look good in their own ways. I have my personal favorite, and I also have my bedside gun. Two different guns. So each one of these has a different place in my top 5 9mm. But I want to hear from you guys which one of these you think is the best. Honestly, if you want to give me a 1 through 4, I'd be great to hear that too. Let me know in the comment section. 1 being your number 1 favorite. That's judging off of all those metrics that I said. And number 4 being your least favorite out of that list. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think out down there. This video, like I said, was mainly just an opinionated video. I want to hear your guys' opinion on there. And I did see your guys' survey results. And in the survey, the Glock clearly won. But the Beretta came in close second. But I want to know in the video content what you guys think from the people who actually watch my videos. I want to know what you guys think out of these metrics, which one of these pistols is the best. So let me know in the comment section. Let me know if you prefer one over the other, or if it's purely on the availability or the cost, what you think. I want to know. But as always, this is only my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm Gundidi, and I will see you heathens for the next one.
I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation. They call me a